which require a complex calculation. Exhibit you can see in a requirement tab. Why Mr. Linonix is believing it. Okay, so let's start the webinar on this paper of SBR, Strategic Business Reporting. I'm your tutor for this webinar. My name is Abubakar, and I have been teaching this paper SBR for more than a decade. So let's start it. First of all, the purpose of this webinar is to understand that what factors are important to pass this SBR exam, or what set of skills we need to pass this paper, and what you can say abilities we should have being a student, we should possess to get through this paper smoothly and easily. So that is the purpose, that is the objective of this Strategic Business Reporting SBR webinar. First of all, we will quickly go through that what is the paper pattern. Dear student, as you know that this paper of SBR, Strategic Business Reporting, SBR exam will be a computer-based exam. It will be a computer-based exam, first of all. This computer-based exam will consist of two parts. The first part is a part A. In this part A, we have two questions. We have two questions. Question 1 will be of 30 marks, and this question will be around the group accounts, where you will be tested with various concepts or various techniques of group accounting relating to subsidiaries, step acquisition, disposal of the subsidiary, associates, goodwill, consolidated cash flow, consolidated foreign subsidiary. All these aspects would be tested in this question. So it would consist of group account, and it will also consist of some other accounting issues relating specifically to a parent company. That might be related to financial instrument of the parent, that might be related to employee benefits, or share-based payment IFRS 2, that might be related to provisions IFRS 15, any aspect can be tested. And this area will consist of total 30 marks. Around, you can say 15 to 16 marks, at least 50% marks or a little bit more would consist of group accounts, and remaining relating to a specific accounting issue relating to a parent company. Then we will be having a question number 2, and this question number 2 will be consist of 20 marks. Will be consist of 20 marks. In this question, the focus will be on accounting issues, relating to IFRS accounting standards, and there will be an ethical aspect will also be tested. There will be an ethical aspect as well, which would be tested. And this area will be consist of 20 marks. At least 50% marks would be allocated to multiple accounting issues, maybe relating to provisions, maybe relating to IFRS 5, asset held for sale, discontinued operations, maybe relating to investment properties, maybe relating to IS 23 borrowing costs, or maybe relating to related parties, maybe relating to segment reporting. Any accounting standard can be tested here. And then after the accounting issue, there will be an area which is relating to ethical aspect of the financial statement and the accounting. So this part of the question will be consist of 20 marks. So you will be having total 50 marks in a part A, 30 marks in part A, in a question number 1, sorry, and 20 marks will be in a question number 2. And out of 50 marks, there will be, keep in mind, there will be at least 2 marks relating to, you can say, these are called professional marks. There will be 2 professional marks. Professional marks mean that you need to demonstrate some skills while answering the question, like how you analyze the situation, how you evaluate the question in your answer, how you use professional skepticism, how you use commercial sense, or that is also known as professional acumen in the question, and how you use your communication skills while answering the related question. So out of 50 marks, 2 marks will be a professional marks in part A of your exam. That means 48 marks will be relating to technical aspect of the paper, and 2 marks here will be relating to professional skills which you need to express while answering your answer. Then after the part A, the second part of your paper is a part B. In a part B, we have other 2 questions, which is question number 3 and question number 4. And both of the questions will be consist of 25 marks. 25 marks in question 3 and 25 marks in question 4. So you have again total 50 marks in part B of your exam. And again, out of total 50 marks, again, in this part, you will also have 2 marks, which are known as professional marks, So in 100 number marks, 4 marks will be professional marks, and 96 marks will be related to your technical knowledge of SBR. In question number 3 and question number 4, in a part B, in each question, there will be multiple accounting issues or indirectly relating to accounting issues. When I say indirectly relating to accounting issue, I mean to say like conceptual framework, or any current issue, or maybe sustainability reporting issue relating to sustainability reporting. These areas would be tested in a question number 3 and question number 4. And in each question of part B, there will be multiple accounting issues, there will be multiple accounting standards, which examiner can test it. Examiner can test it from you. So that would be the structure of your SBR exam, SBR exam. And that would be the exam screen, which you are looking at your computer screen. This is the question number 1. As I told you, in the question number 1, you have a 30 marks, and that question will be consist of group accounts and any accounting issue specifically relating to a parent company, usually a parent company. Now, on the left side of your screen, you have exhibits. Exhibits, you can say the part of the question. Exhibit 1, Brassic company, pension plan, acquisition of Brassic company, and you have a draft consolidated statement, financial statement. In this case, you have a statement of financial position. You will be given a pre-populated spreadsheet, and in that pre-populated spreadsheet, you have to incorporate the certain adjustments given in a question to rectify that pre-populated consolidated financial statement. That might be financial position, that might be consolidated profit and loss account, that might be consolidated cash flow statement. And each exhibit will have a specific requirement. Each exhibit will have a specific requirement, and then you have a response option. In some questions, there will be a requirement to discuss, to explain. So to discuss and to explain, obviously we will use a word processor, and any relating calculation will be done on a spreadsheet. Or if there is a little bit calculation, a simple calculation, that can also be performed on word processor manually. But if there is any complex calculation or a detailed calculation, for that purpose, you will be given a spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, there will be an pre-populated consolidated financial statement, and the other area would be spared for you to do any relevant calculation related to any exhibit. So that would be the question number 1, that group account in a part A, and it will be consist of 30 marks. And you can see, if you look at the requirements, there are some requirements which are specifically related to group accounts, and there is a requirement which is relating to a specific accounting issue of a defined benefit plan relating to IS 90. Then you will be having a question number 2. Question number 2, as I told you, will be relating to accounting issues and an ethical aspect related to that accounting issue. Like, for example, if your CFO is requiring you to recognize a provision or not to recognize a provision, and that is contrary to IAS 37 provisions, contingent liability and contingent asset, or your CEO is requiring you to do a specific accounting treatment, which you know, as per the relevant standard, is not allowed. So obviously, there are some ethical aspects which we need to identify and which we need to discuss. So in a question number 2, you will have a accounting issue. Like here, you have statement of cash flow. Then you have an ethical aspect on that issue. We will discuss it later on in detail, and there are requirements. And each exhibit, as I told you, will have a specific requirement. Here, like using exhibit 1, discuss the correct presentation of the following issue in a consolidated statement of cash flow. There are some specific requirements related to accounting issue, IS 7 cash flow. And then exhibit 2, discuss the ethical issue and the action which Mr. Lennox should take to address these. Okay, so ethical aspect. So 8 marks for accounting issue, 10 marks for ethical aspects, and 2 marks will be here for as a professional mark. As a professional mark, so you have a total 20 marks, and here you are given only a word processor to respond the requirement. Then you have a part B. In part B, you have again 2 questions, and each question will be consist of 25 marks. And in question 3 and question 4, there will be multiple accounting issue which might be tested in a single question. Like here, you have bundled goods. I think it is relating to, yes, it is relating to IFRS 15 revenue, recognition, and measurement. Then we have discontinued operations, IFRS 5 accounting issue. Then we have a land that might be relating to IS 16 or IS 40, property, plant and equipment or investment property. Then purchase of options to purchase a building that might be relating to some sort of derivative financial instrument, or maybe relating to other aspect of the accounting standard. So multiple accounting issue you can see in a question number 3. And you have the requirements. In this, again, each requirement will be relating to a specific exhibit, like using exhibit 1, like using exhibit 2. So every exhibit having a specific requirement. Then again, you have response option. You need to identify that which response option should be used, whether we should word processor or whether we should a spreadsheet. As I told you earlier, if requirement is about only the discussion and explanation, then we will be using to discuss and to explain, we will be using the word processor. And if there is any calculation involved, and if the calculation is simple one, that should be done on the word processor. But if there is any complex calculation, which require a complex calculation, for that purpose, you can use the spreadsheet as well. So each exhibit, you have 4 exhibits in a question, and each exhibit you can see in a requirement tab. Each exhibit has a unique requirement, And similarly, the question number 4. In a question number 4, we have one exhibit relating to a sustainability reporting. And you know, if you have studied, we have 2 standards on sustainability. We have 2 standards on sustainability reporting. Climate change. And in this climate change, he is integrating the financial assets and deferred tax asset. Then we have a share-based payment, IFRS 2, and each exhibit has a unique requirement in the requirement tab. And again, you have 2 options to respond the question. Again, where you need to discuss the thing, where you need to explain the thing, in order to explain, in order to discuss, we will be using the word processor. And if there is any calculation involved, which is requiring to calculate something, for that purpose, we can use the spreadsheet as well while answering these questions, while answering these requirements. Okay. So that is the overall exam structure of your SBR exam. And at the moment, the paper which I have using to explain it is a recent past exam paper, which is related to December 2024. December 2024. I will be using this question paper to conduct this webinar. Okay. So that is the first thing, that what is the pattern of exam we will have in a paper, So that is a pattern which we have discussed here. Now, as I told you earlier, the purpose of this webinar is to discuss the skills we need or the things we need to do to pass this exam, to pass this SBR exam with ease, and in our first attempt of this paper. And let me tell you, this exam can be passed very easily. It is not a very difficult exam of SBR. There is only one condition. That student should go through all accounting standards from A to Z. If a student can do this, then there is no reason that student may fail this exam. Okay. Now, what things we need to do to pass this SBR exam? SBR exam, I have categorized the factors or the things which we need to do being a student to pass this exam. Number one, be ready some sort of hard work. Obviously, keep in mind, without hard work, you cannot succeed. You cannot pass the easiest paper of any professional degree if you are not ready to do hard work. So you have to do hard work. There is no shortcut. If you are looking for a shortcut that in 1 week or in 10 days you can pass SBR, that is not possible. It is a journey. You at least need 2 or 3 months to start SBR, to study SBR, and to complete the SBR with efficiency and with effectiveness. And along with the study, obviously, you need a lot of exam practice. So first, remember one thing, that you should ready to do a hard work. Number one. Number two, you need to get the knowledge. And knowledge of what? You need to knowledge of IFRS/IAS, International Financial Reporting Standard and International Accounting Standard. This is the first thing which you people should do. You should get the knowledge of every IFRS and every IAS which is examinable in your SBR exam. You should go through all accounting standards. Being a student, you not need to go in very depth, but at least the things which are in your syllabus, which are, when I say a syllabus, that means the content of the ACCA study hub, or the content which is we have in the latest books written by the publications like Kaplan and BPP. So get through the IFRS and IAS, all relevant IFRS and IAS which are applicable in your accounting standard. And when you are going through the accounting standard, in that journey, you will be covering accounting standard, you will be covering aspect of financial statement, you will be covering consolidated financial statement, you will be covering consolidated cash flow statement, you will be covering foreign subsidiaries consolidation, associates, joint ventures, property, plant and equipment, investment property, share-based payment, employee benefit, asset held for sale and discontinued operation, provisions, contingent liabilities, contingent asset, events after reporting period, related party transaction, segment reporting, fair value measurements, all these standards which we have in our syllabus, you are going through it. Okay, you can't skip a single accounting standard. Go through all accounting standards of your syllabus. Number 3, you should develop a skill to apply the knowledge on a given case study. You get the knowledge. You get the knowledge of financial instruments. You get the knowledge of provisions, contingent liability, contingent asset. You have a good grip on share-based payment, IFRS 2. You have a good grip now on employee benefits. Now you need a skill that if you are given with a case study on particular accounting standard or on a multiple accounting standards which are connected to each other, you should be able to apply the knowledge on that case study, and you can express the your knowledge connecting with that case study. You can communicate, you can discuss your answer related to that case study in your exam. And that skill cannot be developed without practicing the question. For that purpose, you need to practice a question. You get the knowledge, you do the exam practice question. And you have variety of sources to do it. Most important source is your past paper. Available on ACCA practice platform. Then you have ACCA Study Hub. On ACCA Study Hub, you have variety of questions relating to the accounting standard relating to your syllabus. So you should need to develop that skill. And as I told you, that skill cannot be learned without practicing. To get the knowledge and develop that skill, that how you apply your knowledge on a given case study. Now, one mistake which usually students do, and examiner frequently telling us through their reports, examiner reports, that student, while answering the question, go in too much detail. Even the student is discussing the knowledge which I am not requiring in a particular question. Like for example, tutor or examiner in their report express their opinion that, but for example, if the examiner is requiring you something like that, whether we have a control over a particular subsidiary or not, the student is, while discussion of a control, that what is the meaning of control and whether we have a control over that subsidiary or not, he is going too much in detail that what is subsidiary, what is parent company, what is goodwill, how to calculate goodwill. Now, examiner is saying that I'm not asking you that how to calculate a goodwill. I'm not asking you that what is a parent company, what is a subsidiary company. I'm asking you simply that whether we have a control over that particular subsidiary company or not. In answering that question, you just need to consider the definition of a control in IFRS 10 and the factors which we need to consider that whether we have a control over a subsidiary or not. Simply. But the student is going in too much detail, which is not required. And what is the consequence of that? Student is consuming time. He is unable to complete the whole question paper. And in answering, discussing the knowledge which is not required in the question, the student is going away from the requirement. Instead, he answer the specific requirement. He is discussing something which is not required in exam, and he is consuming his time and he is going away from the requirement. and losing marks and losing marks. And students say, I have completed, and according to student, I have completed the question. I express everything, every knowledge which I get in a consolidation, I have expressed in answering, but he is not understanding in that particular concept topic of the group account. The examiner is only asking you about a control, and you just need to limit yourself around the definition of the control as per the IFRS 10 and move on the other requirement. Towards the other requirement, maybe another requirement, he may ask you about goodwill, but you are discussing the goodwill in a requirement where it is not required. So be careful that uh, approach as well, that while answering, kindly keep yourself limited as per the requirement, not go into much detail, not go into much detail. So you should do hard work. You get establish a good understanding of all IFRSs, all accounting standards which are relevant to your paper of SBR, and you should develop a skill. You should develop a skill to apply that knowledge on a given case study, on a given case study. So these are the very important factors which you should express in your, you should do to pass your SBR. And another very important thing, which is the fourth factor here, try to use all relevant resources, all relevant resources available on SBR paper. Like you have past exam paper on ACCA website, you have examiner reports, you have technical articles, you have ACCA Study Hub, ACCA Study Hub. Try to use every resource available on your relevant paper. As here we're discussing the SBR, try to use every resource, okay, to uh, pass your SBR exam. Obviously, it will take time, but as I told you earlier, that the first factor is the hard work, is the hard work. You should ready to do hard work to pass any exam, in any exam of your ACCA journey, of your ACCA journey. Okay, so these are the things which you should able to demonstrate. You should able to demonstrate in your SBR exam. If you ready to do it and you can do it and you are doing it, then be confident. Obviously, you are going to pass the SBR exam. Okay. Now, the things which we have discussed now and we have learned, now we will learn it through some questions. And the paper which I have chosen is September-December 24 exam. The question number 1, which is relating to group account, I have already discussed in the previous webinar, and that previous webinar is available on the Hamza Academy Facebook page. You can access that question, okay? That this session is basically the second session of the SBR. Now we will go through question number 2, 3, and 4, and we will learn through those questions that this formula, knowledge, skill, are they relevant or not? So the question number 2, we have a question number 2. This question number 2 is relating to statement of cash flow and ethical issue. Now, let's read the exhibit Then we will discuss the answer. And let's read the requirement as well. So while reading the question, we can discuss the solution. And then I have already written answer. So we will go through those written answers as well. Using Exhibit 1, discuss the correct presentation of the following issues in a consolidated cash flow statement. The 11.1 million net movement in a long-term borrowings and high interest rate bank account. High interest rate bank account. Okay, these are the two requirements. We have total 8 marks. And now, just a moment. Now, these requirements are relating to a cash flow statement. And the cash flow statement accounting standard is IAS 1. And in IAS 1, we know that cash flow statement consists of 3 activities: operating, investment, and financing activities. And for operating activities, we have 2 methods: indirect method and direct method. Now, if you are familiar with IAS 7, if you are familiar that there are 3 activities, you are familiar that what sort of cash flows are presented in operating activities, in indirect method and indirect method, what are the activities of cash flow which are presented in the investment activities, and what are financing, then obviously this question is not going to be a challenging question. But if a student is not ready for cash flow, he is not giving the importance to the cash flow statement or IAS 7, then obviously he is going to suffer or she is going to suffer. Doesn't matter that other topic he or she prepared very well, but if he or she is not ready for cash flow statement, there is a question relating to cash flow which is consist of 8 marks, then obviously no power of the earth can make that student able to pass the exam. So that's why hard work and the knowledge are our first priority. We go through every topic of the SBR. We should ready for any topic. There is no choice. There is no choice. You prepare every topic like that. That topic is 100% is coming in an exam. In an exam. So the first requirement which we are going to do in this question number 2 is relating to cash flow statement, and in that exhibit there are very particular requirements about 11.1 million movement in the long-term borrowings. Now the long-term borrowings, you know, is a financing activity. If we have repaid the loan, we will show cash outflow. If we have get new loan, that will be shown as an inflow in a financing activity. And high interest bank accounts, if they are talking about the deposit, that is an investment activity. It is an investment activity. Now, in A group financial statement for the year ended 31st December X7, the long-term borrowings were carried at 21.1 million. The following information was extracted from the financial record about the long-term borrowing. One is bank loan at December X6. In December X6, we have 10 million in a bank loan. It is an outstanding liability. Then 2.5 million, we have a receipt. We have a receipt in a form of cash inflow. Then we have acquisition of a subsidiary. Now, when we acquire a subsidiary, that subsidiary is also have an bank loan with them. Now, this 1.5 million, keep in mind, this is not a cash inflow. It is an acquisition of a liability. When you acquire a subsidiary, this 1.5 million is an acquisition of a liability. So in a simple words, you can say that you have 11.5 million liability. You have 11.5 million liability. as an opening balance, and 2.5 million is a receipt. New lease, there is no new lease relating to bank loan, and the closing balance is 14 million. Then we have a lease liability. We does not have any lease liability in our opening balance, but there is a lease payment of 0.9 million. There is no lease liability acquired through an subsidy acquisition. Yes, there is a new lease. We have a new lease of 8 million. This is a lease liability which we have acquired in the current year. And when we get a lease liability, like here we have 8 million, the lease liability is credited. Then obviously, if you know in IFRS 16, we may have debited right of use asset. We may have debited right of use asset. Like we may have done debit right of use asset and credit the lease liability by 8 billion. So it is also not a cash inflow. It is not also cash inflow. And out of 8 million, 0.9 million we have paid. This 0.9 million is our cash outflow. And the closing lease liability is 7.1 million. So overall, we have a total long-term liabilities of 10 long-term borrowings and closing 21.1 million. Now, a subsidiary was acquired in September 2007 at acquisition date. This subsidiary had a bank loan with a carrying amount of 1.5 million. On 1st January X7, the A company entered into a contract to lease a building. In accordance with the IFRS 16 leases, a lease liability and a right of use asset were recognized, as we discussed. In consolidated financial statement of a cash flow, Mr. Lennox reported the net difference between opening and closing balance 11.1 million. What they have done, they just take the closing balance 21.1 million, closing balance 21.1 and opening balance 10 million. And they show an increase in a long-term liability, loan liability, and that increase is 11.1 million, and they have shown as a single cash inflow from a financing activity. Now that thing they have done. Not in this is a pure and accounting issue relating to a cash flow statement. Now, first of all, the long-term borrowings are shown as a cash inflow or a cash outflow in a financing activity. Okay, but that should be a cash inflow or a cash outflow. Other than that, nothing should be shown in terms of long-term borrowing in a financing activity. Now, the problem here is what they have done is they just consider the closing balance and opening balance. Closing balance of 21.1 and opening balance of 10. Closing balance of 21.1 and opening balance of 10. And they have shown 11.1 million as an cash inflow in the financing activity. Now, there are multiple problems. Number one, these 21.1 million also include a new lease of 8 million. Now, you can see in a double entry that new lease is not creating a cash inflow. When you have a new lease, the entry is right of use asset debit and lease liability is credited. There is no cash inflow. But you are considering it the 8 million as a cash inflow when you just take a difference of 21.1 million and 10 million. So this is the first problem, or one of the problems which we have here. The second issue here, at the acquisition of a subsidiary, when we acquire a subsidiary company on a September X7, that subsidiary company also have a long-term liability of 1.5 million. Now, this 1.5 million is not the cash. It is just an increase in the liability. So it should also not consider as a cash inflow. Now, there should only present it. Number one, 2.5 million as a cash inflow in terms of bank loan and 0.9 million payment of the lease installment. So only 1.6 million is the net inflow which should be presented in the consolidated cash flow statement in financing activities relating to long-term borrowings. Long-term borrowings. Now, dear student, what I told you, you need knowledge and you need the skill to apply that knowledge. Knowledge and a skill to apply that knowledge. Now, if you have the knowledge of a cash flow statement, if while preparing your exam, while studying your exam, you have studied the cash flow statement. And interesting thing, the cash flow statement is not only in SBR. You study cash flow statement in a financial accounting. You study cash flow statement in F7 in FR exam. And then the third time you study cash flow statement in your SBR exam. Yes, consolidated cash flow statement, but the basics are the same. Basics are the same. So if you have a knowledge of a cash flow statement, you know that long-term loans are a financing activity. Then if you know the long-term loans are a financing activity, believe me, you have scored at least 2 marks you have scored. If you do some technical error, if you can identify it as a financing activity, you will get some marks. So you need a knowledge. Then you need a skill to apply that knowledge as we are applying that skill. Yes, it is a financing activity. It should be shown as a cash inflow and outflow in a financing activity of a cash flow statement, but only a cash flow. Now I am applying a skill that a new lease of 8 million and the acquisition of a subsidiary is not creating any cash impact. They are not creating a cash flow impact. You can, in a lease, you can see a double entry. Write-off is as a debit, lease liability is credit. You acquire a subsidiary company, that subsidiary company already have a bank loan liability. So there is an increase in liability, not increase in cash inflow. So there is only two cash flows. One, the bank loan, you get a new bank loan of 2.5 billion and the lease liability you have paid 0.9 million. So only 1.6 million should be presented as a cash inflow in your financing activity relating to the long-term borrowing. So that is the first issue. The second part of this requirement was relating to high interest bank account. High interest bank account. Look at here. On 1st November X7, a company paid 4 million into a high interest bank account. Paid into, I think that means a deposit. They have deposited 4 million in a high interest bank account. A company cannot withdraw funds before 30th April exit. The money in this account has been treated as a cash equivalent in a consolidated cash flow statement because Mr. Linonix believed the bank would release the fund early if a company was suffering from a liquidity issue. From the liquidity issue. Now, what is meaning that they are treating it as a cash and cash equivalent? Dear student, if you familiar with the cash flow statement, there is an operating activity, OP for operating. There is operating activity. Then there is investment activity. And then there is a financing activity. Then there is a financing activity. And at the end, we net all these three activities, we get a net cash. And in that net cash value, we adjust opening cash and cash equivalents, and we get closing cash and cash equivalents. Now, cash equivalents are cash balance minus bank overdraft plus short-term investment. These are the cash equivalents. Now, Mr. Linonix is treating this high interest bank account as a cash equivalent. Now, okay, he is treating, but we need to establish that what is the meaning of cash and cash equivalent. Dear student, cash and cash equivalents are basically those assets and those liabilities which are readily, I'm saying it again, which are readily convertible into cash. Readily convertible into cash. Now, the readily convertible into cash means whenever I want, I can convert it in a cash immediately. Literally meaning immediately. But IS 7 give us some time as well. The guidance of IS 7 is that if an asset and liability can be converted within 3 months, in a cash, that can be treated as a cash and cash equivalent. Okay, so cash and cash equivalents are the monetary items which are readily convertible into cash. Now, if this high interest bank account is really a cash equivalent, then Mr. Linonix is doing the right thing. But we need to discuss that is it really a cash and cash equivalent? Now, first of all, it is a high interest bank account, number one. Number two, there is mention in a question, you cannot withdraw the funds before 30th April, let's say. You cannot withdraw a single penny. It is specifically mentioned in that question. Before 30th April, let's say, and you are standing on 1st November. So there are at least 6 months. After the 6 months, you can convert or you can withdraw the cash. But before that, you cannot convert this account into a cash account. But according to Linonix, they can release fund anytime when a company required. But this is not true because it is specifically mentioned in a contract that you cannot withdraw the fund before 30th April, X8. So that means the Mr. Linonix believe that it is a cash and cash equivalent is not right. It is not a cash and cash equivalent. And the treatment of this as a cash and cash equivalent is contrary to International Accounting Standards 7 Consolidated Cash Flow Statement. It cannot be treated as a cash and cash equivalent. So what should be the treatment? It should be shown as a cash outflow. It should be shown as an cash outflow in an investment activity. Not as a cash and cash equivalent in their cash flow statement. And why they are doing it, it is not part of this requirement, but again, I'm saying it is not part of the requirement. Why they are doing it, why Mr. Linonix is believing it that it is a cash and a cash equivalent, because they are in a suffering from liquidity issue. Liquidity means cash. They have some liquidity problem. So by treating this high interest bank account as a cash and cash equivalent, they basically want to maybe manipulate the financial statement, misguide the user of the financial statement that their liquidity is not suffering. That is the motivation basically. But this is not part of the requirement. We will limit ourselves just that it is not a cash and cash equivalent with reasons, and it should be treated as a investment activity, as an investment in an investment activity, not as a cash and cash equivalent. Got it? And you have total 8 marks. You have total 8 marks for this requirement, And but let me tell you one thing, that what are the allocation of the marks? What are the allocation of the marks here? we have 8 marks here. So out of eight, you can say 5 marks or yes, 5 marks may be relating to 11.1 million, and 3 marks or 4 marks would be relating to high interest bank account, depending upon the professional marks available in this part. But I think out of there are 8 and 10, maybe 7 marks for the technical knowledge, and 1 mark here would be for professional marks. And in a part B, which is having 10 marks, maybe 9 marks would be for technical knowledge, and 1 mark maybe for the professional marks, So that would be the allocation. So again, you can see here in this question, you have 8 marks related to cash flow statement. And these marks are very basic marks, marks which are relating to very basic concepts of the cash flow statement. And again, if you have a knowledge and you have a skill, then you can get maximum marks in this part of the question. Now, the second exhibit, which is relating to the ethical issue. Now, dear students, just remember, being a professional accountant, it is our professional duty that we should act with integrity, objectivity, professional competence, due care, confidentiality, and we should show a professional behavior in our professional life. We should not associate ourselves with a statement which we know is wrong or may misguide or may be misrepresenting, causing a mispresentation of the financial statement. Being a professional accountant, and especially being an ACCA member, it is our very important duty. And we should take care of this thing in our professional life. Now, here, Mr. Linonix is an ACCA member, and Miss Ruiz, the finance director and ACCA member, is his immediate line manager. Miss Ruiz has ordered Mr. Linonix to produce a group sustainability report in accordance with the IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards. After correcting the error outlined in Exhibit 1, Mr. Linonix sent the consolidated financial statement to Miss Royce for review. As a part of her review, Miss Royce made several changes. Mr. Linonix believed that Miss Ruiz has understated the foreign exchange loss adjustment in arriving at a cash flow from operating activities, and also understated the dividend paid by 2 million. These combined errors have no impact on overall net cash flow from operating activities. Mr. Linonix is aware that Ms. Ruiz is a major shareholder in a company, and because of current liquidity crisis, he has concluded that she wants to conceal from third party the extent of her dividend. When previously questioned Ms. Ruiz about some of her decisions, she threatened to dismiss him. Now, what's the requirement now? Now, using the Exhibit 2, discuss the ethical issue and action which Mr. Lennox should take to address this. Now, what we have ethical issues here. Dear student, the possible ethical issue we have, number one is maybe relating to sustainability report, where the immediate manager has asked Mr. Lennox to produce the sustainability report, to produce a sustainability report. Now, it is just a possibility which we are going to discuss. Now, to produce a report on a sustainability, the Mr. Lennox obviously should have a knowledge of the standards which are relating to the sustainability. The first standard we have relating to sustainability is IFRS S1. IFRS S1, it is about requirement of disclosures regarding the sustainability. And IFRS S2, Sustainability Standard 2, which is relating to disclosure about the climate related issue. So to produce the report on a sustainability, Mr. Lennox should have a knowledge of IFRS S1 and IFRS S2, Sustainability Reporting Standard 1 and International Financial Reporting Sustainability Reporting Standard number 2. Standard 1, as you know, is relating to general requirement for disclosure of the sustainability related to the financial statement, and S2 is relating to the issues of a climate change, a climate related issue. Now, if Mr. Lennox have that knowledge, then obviously he should go with the requirement and he should produce the report on a sustainability. But what if Mr. Lennox does not have that knowledge? Because as you know that this concept is not developing, it is not a much older issue. It is an issue which is not developing in and it is required by now various jurisdiction that we should report on sustainability as well. So it is a developing issue. So it is possible that Mr. Lennox may not have enough knowledge or a technical grip on these sustainability standards. Now, if this is the case, then this is the issue of professional competence and due care. If Mr. Lennox does not have relevant knowledge on that, so it is an issue of professional competence and due care. Now, professional competence and due care is a principle which, being a professional accountant, we should adhere. We should have the knowledge about that. But if they does not have, then they should not prepare the report. And what they should do, they should inform the line manager that they does not have the required knowledge and they cannot produce the report. Okay, and this is a issue of professional competence and due care. So what Mr. Lennox do now? Mr. Lennox should learn about the sustainability reporting. There are various CPDs available, continuous professional development programs available by ACCA or by other professional bodies. He should attend those seminars. He should attend those conferences and get the knowledge and develop the technical grip on these things. And then after that, he should start to report on sustainability. But before that, he should not write the report on sustainability because he does not have the sufficient knowledge. So this is the first thing which we need to discuss here. Now, the other ethical issue which we have, that is relating to a cash flow statement. Why? Now, there are several issues which we have. Number one, Mr. Lennox believes that Ms. Roy has made several changes in which they understated the foreign exchange losses in arriving cash flow from operating activities, and they also understated the dividend payment of 2 million, and they are concealing the information. Now, these are two issues. And now what the things or what would be the impact on Mr. Linonix? Because requirement is surrounding the Mr. Linonix. Yes. Now, what are the ethical issue here, Mr. Linonix? Now, in a last line, it was mentioned in a question that its immediate manager has threatened him last year when he previously questioned his line manager that she will dismiss him. So his line manager has threatened him that he may be dismissed by her. So in this situation, it is difficult for Mr. Linonix to work with objectivity. Now think with the practical aspect. If your job is threatened and the threat is from your immediate boss, then obviously your objectivity would be compromised. Now you would be, being a human being, you would be thinking about your job, that what if my boss fire me from the job or terminate from the job because we have some financial interest in the form of salary or other employee benefits. So in that situation, obviously for Mr. Linonix would be very difficult to perform his duty with complete objectivity, which is a primary principle of the professional accountant, which he or she should follow. Now, in this situation, you can discuss that Mrs. Ruiz is concealing some things in a cash flow statement like dividend payment. And the motivation of that is that they are suffering from the liquidity issue. So they does not want to show that how much dividend they have paid. So that's why they want to conceal that information from the cash flow statement. And because Mr. Ruiz is the major shareholder of the company, so she has a motivation to do it, because if she can do this, she can hide that information from the cash flow statement. It would create a value for his shares in a stock market or in the financial market. So she has a self-interest. She has a self-interest to hide the payment of dividend of 2 million. So the other shareholder or the other investor cannot identify that the company is suffering from the liquidity issue. So she has the motivation. Now, what Mr. Linonix do? Now, first of all, in this situation, Mr. Linonix should discuss this issue with his line manager. But the problem with the line manager is that she has already threatened him. So that is out of the question now. So now, in a second step, he should identify whether there are other people with responsibilities like NADs, board of directors, where he can raise this issue, that there are some information which is hidden, which is being hid from the cash flow statement. If there are other people with that responsibility like NADs, he should contact with them and bring this knowledge, information in their knowledge. And at the last resort, he can contact with ACCA helpline regarding these ethical problems, but keeping in mind the principle of confidentiality. Because being a professional accountant, it is also our duty that we should not disclose any financial information or any sensitive information or any type of information to anyone unless required by the law. So these are the ethical aspect in this question. And in every question number 2, there will be an accounting issue like here we have, and we will be having at least up to 10 marks on ethical. And for that purpose, you should be aware of ethical principle, and the threat to those principles. And let me tell you, on ACCA Study Hub, you have a chapter number 1 on ethical aspect. You can go through that chapter and you will get a very good understanding on that issue. Now, let me share with you So I have some written answer as well, especially if you focus on the ethical aspect. Sustainability, like in order to produce a sustainability report, Mr. Elonix require a knowledge of IFRS S1 and IFRS S2. Now look again. Now there is a requirement of sustainability in this question. So you should be, being a student, you should be aware of that there are S1 and S2, standard 1 and standard 2 on sustainability reporting. If you does not have the idea about the sustainability reporting, then obviously you are going to lose these marks. S1 is relating to general requirement for disclosure and S2 is relating to climate related disclosure. Now, preparing this report without a knowledge will be the breach of professional competence and due care. So if he does not have a knowledge, then Mr. Lenonic should inform his line manager, Ms. Ruiz, of his knowledge gap. And if possible, he should attend external training course on an application of these standards. If not, then he should not perform the work. A company may need to pay a third party to assist with preparation of this report. So that is about the sustainability. Now, the other ethical issues. Okay, sorry. The other ethical issue is relating to the cash flow statement. Here, cash flow statement. Now, as we discussed that in this situation, it would be difficult for Mr. Lenonix to work with objectivity. The reason is he is threatened that he will be dismissed from the job. Now, it is an ethical issue for the accountant. It appeared that Ms. Ruiz is purposefully concealing the extent of the dividend payment, and this demonstrates a lack of integrity on her part and objectivity. This has been driven by the fact that Ms. Ruiz is a major shareholder who want to hide the value of her dividend from third parties, creating a self-interest threat. Mr. Lenonic should document the relevant fact. Additionally, he should examine other financial statements in order to see if the foreign currency loss and dividend paid have also now been misstated in them. He should collect to gather evidence from the financial record which indicate that two amounts are incorrectly presented and should identify the parties which will be affected by that. Mr. Lenonix need to determine with whom he can discuss the matter, as under normal circumstances, he would discuss such issue with the immediate line manager. However, in this case, his immediate line manager, Ms. Ruiz, which could pose a problem for him as he likely to receive a response which is not appropriate. He should discuss the matter with other recipient of the financial statement which are likely to the board of members and possibly the audit committee, NAD's audit committee. He may consider connecting ACCA for advice and guidance In any event, it will be helpful to document his involvement. The substance of any discussion held with Ms. Ruiz and other parties and the basis of any decision which were made. If there are no satisfactory resolution of the issue, which could easily be the case, he should consider his position with the company. That means he should consider to resign from the company. So in this question, you can see that we need how we have written and how we express the ethical issue here. And ethical issue again, surrounding with objectivity and integrity, professional competence, due care and confidentiality. And the threat, those principles, which may be due to self-interest, which may be due to intimidation, which Ms. Ruiz is doing with Mr. Linonix and threatening him that he may be dismissed from the job. So all the ethical aspect will be surrounding those principles and those threats. And again, I'm saying, again, you need a knowledge. You need a knowledge and a skill to apply that knowledge on a given case study. So that was the question number 2. Question number 2 on this exam. Now, after the question number 2, we will be moving towards the part B. And in a part B, we are having a question number 3. We are having a question number 3. But before we go through the question, let's take a short break. Let's take a short break for 10 minutes. And after the break, we will discuss this question. And we will try to understand, we'll try to learn that how we can apply the knowledge on a given case study. Okay, so kindly take a break, and the break will last for 10 minutes.